Hi, everybody. Okay, so this is 991 days um, in this countdown to 1,000 days. And I really, in these 1,000 days since I've been doing this, um, I really haven't counted down or counted up to certain days because it's just gets too depressing to do that. Um, we're at the point right now that we have so many leads, so many unanswered inquiries. And oh, I should have grabbed the letter from Veronica Escobar, but I can tell you what it is. It's a campaign letter, um, and I'm just we're just going through it and trying to understand what she's doing, and we're calling her Cover Up Veronica because she's covering up major crimes. And so let's start from the beginning. 991 days since Richard vanished from the barracks on Fort Bliss in Border City, El Paso, Texas. It's the Siamese sister border city with Juarez, Mexico. Super important. And Cover Up Veronica has not she bragged in her letter that in 2020 she was gracious enough um, to ask the FBI to get involved. They were already involved. You see, they were already involved. So she's done absolutely nothing and just covered up all the crimes. And how were the FBI involved? Well, because Richard had put in child protective service complaints. He wasn't complaining about, oh, that person isn't nice to their child. Okay. He was complaining about the child sex trafficking. He was complaining about, and people go, how do you know? We haven't gotten the CPS complaint. We haven't gotten the CPS complaint. We've had a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Action, act that we should be able to get Richard's complaint or complaints from the Child Protective Services. Um, so, so this is a reasonable, with lots of evidence, um, assessment uh, of what is in those why they don't even want to give it to us. If it was just, oh, yeah, that young mother was leaving the child alone or something like that, they would have given that to us. That wouldn't have been a problem at all. Um, but that's not the case. They have put off and off and off and off, letting us see what our son, which is really criminal too, because we have the freedom to get that information, and yet they don't respect our laws. So we know that Richard was complaining about child sex trafficking and about child pornography. Um, could it be the production of it, the manufacturing, the marketing of it, the broadcasting of it? And why do we say that? Well, we say that because he had sex videos that he turned in. We also say that because Richard had a file that triggered the IG being all over the barracks. Okay, so that means there's child pornography. Okay, it's not like they're bringing in kids. Of course, they were bringing in girls. They were bringing in females during the COVID, and now we found out they were even paying them. Now, so of course, if the military leadership there at Fort Bliss is going to resort to that level of undiscipline in our military, then of course they're going to go even lower. It's a spiral down into the abyss, right? It's a spiral down into the abyss of putting our volunteer sons and daughters in danger right there at home, right there on a secure, supposed to be a secure military installation. But they can't even secure their military installation. Uh, you know, if they can't secure their own military installation and protect their own volunteer sons and daughters that are trained, right? How are they going to protect the United States of America and the land and the people being the Constitution? That's a good question, isn't it? So, how do we know why am I making such a bold statement to say that Richard was making child protective servants child protective service complaints that had to do with child sex trafficking and child pornography? Because of the sex tapes, but also because he had that file. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. He was there. He had the file. He was assigned a CID agent. Okay. That CID agent, um, that CID, could it have been Tavita Nusa? Could it have been Special Agent, CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa? CID Special Agent Soto, did you assign Special Agent, CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa to Richard's file, to Richard's case of him complaining about child sex trafficking and child pornography? That's a good question, right? Because the next thing we know, he is leaking. And this is what we've heard. This is what we've heard. We're trying to confirm it, that they were taking pictures. They didn't have to go into the computer. They took pictures of the files. So anyone could have put it up on the screen. You could take your pictures, and those pictures through the cell phone was then shared illegally. Let's just use my phone as a spy device, as an illegal betrayer of whistleblowers. And why is it illegal? Because whistleblowers have rights. They have rights to extra protection. Because you see something, you say something, right? And if you tell the United States military service members that if you see something, say something, you also back them up with protection, right? For my whole life, ringing in my ears is see something, say something about fraud, waste, and abuse. Fraud, waste, and abuse. Maybe this is why I'm doing this for 1,000 days, because I have been programmed by the U.S. military leadership. If I see fraud, waste, and abuse, if I see it, I say it. I say something. And I am due, as the mother of Richard, the Team Find Richard Halliday of Richard, who has been seeing fraud, waste, and abuse and saying something in this fraudulent, wasteful, abusive, criminal, botched investigation and search into our son, the very first CONUS DES 1 missing soldier in U.S. Army history under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. You know, I'm due some protection. But no, what have they done? They've put us in danger. And that's exactly what they did to Richard. So Richard is put into danger by the leaking, not even the leaking, the illegal distribution of his doxed file. They were sharing it. And I know that they've been sharing it because I've been told by them that they were sharing it. Just like they were sharing Lavina Johnson's file. I knew that they were leaking and sharing the file because of Hemasochil. Hemasochil is the wife of Richard's first sergeant. So, of course, he got it. Many people got Richard's doxed file. He was making reports. And we believe that they involve other things too. And we know that it was before he went missing. Why? Because Tavita Nusa, CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa, was leaking, taking those pictures, and, this is what we're being told, but he hasn't called us. He hasn't called. We know that he lost his badge. We know that information was leaked. We know that Tavita Nusa leaked that information to Leilani Hart, and it was shared everywhere to many, many people. It was shared to many people. And it was also used, we've been told, to fortify, to enhance Leilani Hart's grievances report case against her own family in a very messy divorce. So she was putting a case out against her husband, James Hart. And she used Richard's file to fortify that. That's what we were told. And we were told by a very good source involved in that. So so how do we know that it was before Richard went missing? Because Leilani Hart was so serious about putting forth her grievances to the CID that she would put Tavita Nusa, who she has a very dear relationship with, at risk. Who puts their person that you say you care about at risk like that? To lose his entire career because he lost his badge. Okay. And, but she was so serious that on the 22nd of July, 2020, she had that notarized. She had that notarized before she handed it in. And she notarized it on the 22nd of July, 2020. And we spoke to the notary public and got that confirmed. And we also know what those files were about because the file numbers have been leaked. Okay. Who leaked them? Who had access into the CID and also the FBI? Could it be Tavita Nusa again? I don't know. That's exactly where my thoughts went. Oh, well, she has her her person in there, right? That she has this close relationship, very, very close relationship with. And he's willing to risk everything for her. And so, of course, he spills the beans he spills the numbers, the case numbers, CID, FBI. I don't know. That's just me reasonably working it out, thinking it out, brainstorming on how this could happen. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I invite anybody that knows different to come on, 941-677-0060. Call that number and come on and, tell us what you know. And we have $150,000. Matter of fact, I have some good news. That you can pray for. Because that $150,000 for credible information leading to finding Richard, it may be raised. It may be soon raised. So pray that it is raised. Um, so that's going on behind the scenes too. But we know that all that information that was used from Richard's file was part of that file that to be put in, because that's what we were told by someone involved in all of that. Okay? Now, like I said, give us a call. So that means, let's put it together. Cover up Veronica, who says that she brought in the FBI. The FBI was already brought in, y'all. Because Richard had been doxxed. And Richard was part of then that whole mess brought into a contentious divorce. He was doxxed. And that file that went to the CID against James Hart and family, that was then so powerful. It was such a powerful complaint, just written the right way, just with the amount of information that you would need to have, or maybe more, that it went to the FBI. And that's why it had an FBI number. So the FBI was already involved with Richard, you see, because Richard was brought into the Hart divorce, family scandal, or contentious battle. Maybe it's not as contentious as I think. I don't know. But I know when it involves child sex trafficking, when it involves child abuse, when it involves a rape of an 8-year-old, or the abuse of an 8-year-old, the sexual abuse of an 8-year-old, when it involves other things that, are just unspeakable, I think it's pretty contentious. But, if Dallas Hart knows more, he can give me a call. Because Richard then was put into a very dangerous place. And I don't think that Dallas Hart was then happy with Richard. I don't think that James Hart was happy with Richard. Richard was doxxed then. Richard was doxxed and brought into the attention of the FBI and the CID already. So what is Cover Up Veronica talking about? Does she know something? Can she straighten this out? Can the DA straighten this out? Can the AUSA straighten this out, like Gregory McDonald or Ian? What is Ian's last name? I wonder if I have this open, because I wanted to see that. No, I don't think I have it open. So much to do, and I should know his name very easily. I should know his name. Oh, I better shut that down. No. No, I have to find it. But I know his first name is Ian because I've been writing him. I could check my email. That's what I can do. I can check my email because I know that I have them. And this is really important, because if there's a CID case that is involving a soldier and then all of a sudden he disappears, he vanishes, he forcefully vanishes out of the barracks room. Is he forcefully taken? Is he, I mean, that's, let me see. U.S. DOJ, Ian Hanna. Is that the one I'm talking about? Maybe it is. Ian Hanna? Does that sound right, y'all? Ian Martinez Hanna? Okay, so, tell you, I should know all these people very, very well because they should have reached out to us. And they haven't even reached out to us. Because look, you have in El Paso a report that is so wowzer that it turns into an FBI file, and it involves this soldier with child abuse and child sex abuse and all kinds of things. And all of a sudden the soldier goes missing, and nobody nobody contacts the family. There's no urgency to contact the family, even with Vanessa Guillen's case going on. Beheaded, and cut up and burnt, and and I'm so sorry for the family. I really am. But people need to know. They need to know that that didn't shake the army up. That didn't shake the army up to be vigilant and to do the right thing. What it did is to make them cover up. And it made Veronica cover up. So don't call her a cover girl, call her cover up Veronica. Because that's exactly what she's doing here. So she's trying to blow her little horn in this letter. And I don't care if she likes me or not. She still is paid to be the representative of those that live in El Paso and have oversight of Fort Bliss. She needs to do her job. But she's just been covering up. And worse. And worse. And so she talks about that, and then she talks about that we missed a scheduled meeting with Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. And that's who we need to go to for answers. Well, number one, we never had a scheduled meeting with him. And number two, she must have not done anything since 2020 I don't think she ever did anything, because if she paid attention at all to the very first CONUS Dust One missing soldier under Vanessa Guillen's absent soldier flowchart, the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. Let me say that again. Richard is the very first CONUS Dust One missing soldier under the new Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart. If she's not paying attention to that, she's kicking the Guillen family right in the teeth. She has no respect for what happened to Vanessa Guillen and what that family fought for. She has no respect, this cover-up Veronica, for every one of our volunteer sons and daughters that volunteer to serve in our military with being told by their recruiter that they are joining a family, that the leadership have an obligation to care for their well-being, their mental health and their physical health, not to put them in danger unnecessarily. To be put in danger on a military installation on your own home soil, and then to be put in double jeopardy because the barracks, they're not following the standard operating procedures, and they have become a crime zone, an absolute crime zone, flush with weapons, a marketplace for illegal drugs. The leaders are paying girls to come in during COVID so that they have fun at their frat parties every day. And then they wonder why they become alcoholics, or they drink their grog and they're not careful and the grog has antifreeze in it. And then you have 11 soldiers that have life threatening poisoning. And this is not me being crazy. This is me just reading the news coming out of Fort Bliss, coming out of Fort Stewart, coming out of Fort Bragg, coming out of Fort Hood, coming out of Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton, you had Marines in. They were doing human trafficking, y'all. They were participating. They had their own little human trafficking ring. But I'm talking about the security right there on Fort Bliss. And then Richard was put in triple jeopardy. Okay, you can multiply it as much as you want. There's so many dangers, because I'm not even going into the mental health danger here. But triple jeopardy danger, because the CID special agent that is assigned to his case to keep a whistleblower protected, to keep files secured, to establish justice, so that you can have good morale, so that you can have a strong army, esprit de corps. He betrays Richard for, it looks like, a sexual relationship. And everybody always, like, for years and years, I've heard this, oh, sex, it's okay, whatever. You shouldn't get in people's bedrooms or whatever. No, it's getting into our military installations, into the barracks. And, we have colonels exposing themselves and bragging about it. And now we have our laws, our UCMJs, our standard operating procedures, our protection for whistleblowers blown up in our face right there at Fort Bliss, a border city, and making Richard a target. Making Richard a target. And Cover Up Veronica doesn't know this. She doesn't put two and two together, because she's privileged. She's absolutely privileged. We have given her everything. We've given her a nice pay package. We've given her top secret clearance. We've given her all kinds of expense money. We've given her power to oversee a military installation. They roll out the red carpet for her, because she has the power to do a legislative investigation, a legislative inquiry. She can call up a committee. She has, endless pockets to call these committees. She has people's phone numbers and connections that we don't have. She has access to the shadow news, the shadow media. She has access to the shadow government. She has access to the shadow banking. She has access. We have given her everything. She's supposed to be a public servant, and she's a cover-up agent. And then she writes us a letter to say, you need to go to Bernabe, who is he comes in as a 1 star gets us 2 star, and covers it up too. He's cover up Bernabe too, but it's worse than that. It's so criminal, y'all. And when you're in those positions, it's the worst type of enemy because they're supposed to be servants. And we are funding them, and we are praying for them, and we're trying to respect them. And we've put the laws in place that they have power over us. It's like a new feudal system. We hire them, and we put the laws in place that they control us. And we have no recourses. So all of our resources go to a place that gives us no recourse. And Richard was, before he went missing, was placed in grave danger and made a target because he was doxxed. He was doxxed by the very agency that was supposed to protect him. And that very agency, with many others, then were weaponized against us also, Team Find Richard Halliday. I want to make that clear too. And that's not normal, dear. That's not normal. So who's all involved in this drug? Because, if you're so low to do child sex trafficking and then film it to make child pornography, child pornography, and then market it and airdrop it, distribute it. And I've already talked to people. They have special servers that they use to distribute this all over the place, as much as you want. It's big business. And if you're that low to do that, then of course the drugs are involved, and of course weapons are involved. Now, that makes me a whistleblower to tell you all of this stuff. So who is going to protect us? We've been doxxed by Richard being doxxed. You see, the crime and the lies, they just create a bigger and bigger problem and put more and more people in danger and create more and more victims. And here we are. So many victims. And then people cry about the victim society, because we don't have justice. We don't have the people that are supposed to be being advocates for victims. And so who is supposed to be our advocate? Who is supposed to help us as victims in this? Who is even supposed to investigate Richard? It's supposed to be the DA. We were told that Richard was in nobody's jurisdiction. But that was a lie. They absolutely could have helped us without the army taking us back. That's what we're learning right now. They could have absolutely helped us. Veronica Escapar, so cover up Veronica, she could have absolutely helped us. And the DA, who is right now Bill Hicks, he hasn't even reached out to us. And he absolutely knows the suffering and the danger that we have gone through and have been put in. He absolutely knows it. I'm very vocal. I come on here every day. El Paso knows it. Anybody that is in any position of power in El Paso knows about Find Richard. And they know about us not backing down from asking, "Where's Richard? Where's Richard?" And I know that he replaced Rosales because of the Walmart shooting. I know that Walmart shooting was a very big thing. But that's then, this is now. And we're almost at 1,000 days where he hasn't even reached out. I mean, how long does it take to reach out? No. What is he doing? He's entertaining media interviews. That's what he's doing. And then during those interviews, he says, "Oh, I'm an advocate for victims' rights." And yet he hasn't even reached out to us. We feel defenseless, and without recourse. Our recourse is media. We send letters and letters and letters. We're so sick of sending letters, to be honest with you, because they just give us a run around and run around and run around. So we, and I'm not quite done with it yet, but I wanted to read you some of this. The Honorable Greg Abbott of the great state of Texas. We are Robert and Patricia Halliday, the parents of Richard Halliday, the U.S. Army's betrayed whistleblower. We are approaching 1,000 days since our son vanished from his barracks room on Fort Bliss in border city El Paso, Texas, after being placed in grave danger. We are sending you this communication with the hopes that you will help intervene in the criminal botched investigation and search of our son. We recently read that you are intervening directly to help Army Sergeant Daniel Perry, who was accused of murder. Right? Remember, he shot a guy and they're saying in self-defense, and he was accused of murder. We hope that you would also intervene with the same speed and intensity so to focus state resources to find our son. We've been waiting. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent here. We've been waiting so long for somebody in an authoritative position to show any kind of urgency in finding Richard or doing something about it. It's like they just don't care. So we hope that you will also intervene with the same speed and intensity so to focus state resources to find our son, who we have evidence that he was murdered. I need to fix that a little bit. We have evidence. He didn't murder anybody. Okay, he's not accused of murdering anybody. We're saying that he was murdered. At 1,000 days, with all the information that we have and all the evidence that we have, we can say that he was murdered. And we are asking you to do so because the local DA, Bill Hicks, has failed to protect our rights. You see, when the DA doesn't protect the rights, that kind of puts a green light out, a green flag, to people like CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa. And then for a little sex, he doesn't even think twice. He doesn't even think twice about violating the victim's rights, the whistleblower rights of an active duty volunteer son of this republic. There's no esprit de corps. There's no loyalty. There's no integrity. There's no honor. There's no sense of duty. No personal courage. No personal control. no selfless service. So, and I'm not picking on Bill Hicks as a person, I'm picking on him as a DA. Because he has failed to protect our rights as victims and to take the steps in helping to prosecute or investigate the disappearance of our son. Bill Hicks has even failed the simple task of reaching out to us. Instead, after we have pleaded, waited, and watched, he has focused his attention and all his energy on entertaining interviews with local media. And remember when Miss Kocherga called? Because she was just like really upset that I didn't like that article that was giving wrongfully legitimacy to Leilani Hart and hurting our case. It was hurting our case. And if it was a just article, then okay, I would take it. But it was so unjust. It was such a hit job. And she used Leilani Hart to do it. And so when she called, not once did she want to know about our advancement in finding Richard or about Richard's case. It was, it was like, oh, well, maybe I'll call you back and we'll talk about Richard's case. No, but they will give time to a DA that is failing our victims, did the media even ask him, hey, have you called Team Find Richard Halliday and offered them victims assistance, their victims' rights? Have you told that family? Have you told Find Richard Halliday, Team Find Richard Halliday, their rights? And have you offered them some protection? Because let me tell you, they have evidence that their son was murdered, and they have suffered vile and vulgar attacks through the phone system. And then, you wouldn't believe it, but they were able to trace these phone calls, and these phone calls led to Santa Clara, the headquarters of Silicon Valley, of Stanford, that had been charged in Congress for controlling and censoring millions of people so that they can control the narrative in social media. And that power is in Santa Clara, where we traced one of our vile, vulgar messages. Not only that, but we also traced it to NATO, Denmark. We also traced it to South Korea, where it just happens to be the general that was over El Paso, over 1 AD, that Lieutenant General Bernabe replaced, went to South Korea. That could just be, you can think what you want. And then we traced one of the vile, vulgar numbers to the White House in Toronto, the City Hall. And a pie safe shop. What's going on? So not only has this family done this, Team Find Richard Halliday has done this. So, it is getting riskier and riskier for them. Has DA Bill Hicks called us? Offered us protection, offered us help so that we wouldn't have to be investigating the murder of our son, but that the DA could do it, or the Attorney General could do it, or, Veronica Escobar put in inquiries and legislative inquiries and form a committee to oversee and and drive the military to do the right thing and hold people accountable. I mean, I don't know why we're paying these people. I don't know why they even have their positions. We clearly are not becoming a safer and safer and safer, happier nation because of the work that they're doing. They're just causing more cover ups and more problems, green lighting more crime. And more children are becoming victims of sex abuse, of being filmed and turned into a child porn star, being groomed, making it seem like, oh, this is the normal life for them, being groomed into pornography. So when they grow up, they'll just be, in pornography. So any kind of support for pornography is support for child sex trafficking and child grooming into the sex industry. And Richard is a whistleblower for that was doxxed before he went missing and put into a very dangerous situation in the middle of a not so nice divorce, and they were up to no good. And in that family is First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, right there, part of 11th Brigade. And we have information that he was even closer, very close. We have witness testimony that he was very close. You could put an X on it. So we're writing this letter to the governor because, you see, the governor is very, very powerful. On the hierarchy of government, the governor is in the top 4, I think. He's number 4 after the president. And I have to look on my chart of hierarchy. I should put it on my wall here. But I know the governor is very high in his own state. And so Governor Abbott has a lot of power. And we have been witnessing it these last days, haven't we? Because he intensely, very quickly, with huge urgency, came to the rescue of Army Sergeant Daniel Perry. It's not just a civilian, it is an Army Sergeant Daniel Perry. And who was accused of murder. And Richard, who we have evidence was murdered, should also be shown that kind of intensity, that kind of urgency to search for him and to investigate this botched, criminal, dangerous investigation. Because they've endangered us now. And Bill Hicks has failed to protect our rights as victims. He hasn't taken the steps to help prosecute or investigate the disappearance of our son. Bill Hicks has even failed the simple task of reaching out. And as we have pleaded and waited and watched, he has focused his attention and all his energy on entertaining interviews with local media where he claims he is a strong advocate of victims' rights. The reality is quite the opposite. He has shown no interest in our son's case. And that's where I'm still writing. He also allowed the use, it's like he, the DA now, and so my son-in-law, he's South Korean. My daughter met him through a Korean language group in Dublin, Ireland, because she wanted to learn Korean. Few years before she met him, she on her own said, I'm going to learn Korean. They have an alphabet, Hangul. I'm going to learn it. And, we're like, okay, yay, go for it. And one of those things that happened, one of the consequences of that, or one of the benefits of that, is being introduced to Korean dramas, right? Because one of the ways she learned Korean is to watch these Korean dramas. And of course, we watched it with her. And something very, very important is in these Korean dramas, the historic Korean dramas, the period dramas, and that is the seals, the seals of seal, SEAL. Okay, so they would have like a certain stone, and it would be carved, and every document would get that seal, like with the wax, right? With the wax or even ink, they would get that seal. And that proved that official was doing their job, was serious about their position. But see, what happened in this interview is Bill Hicks didn't even show up. He's the DA. He didn't even show up. And this interviewer was interviewing this victim, this mother. And there was his seal. That's a no-no, y'all. You don't, okay, look, Joseph in the Bible, this is another example, was given by the Pharaoh the ring. The ring had the seal on it. That gave him power. Why is Bill Hicks giving the reporter his power? The media is not supposed to assume the power of the DA, or even portray that the media has the power of the DA, that the media is a mouthpiece of the DA. That you can't do that. It's so careless, and it's just like this colonel and this captain and many others that are showing their erections in uniform with a doggy mask. It is disgracing the uniform. It is disgracing the military institution, the military building, the esprit de corps. It's so damaging. You have to be careful with that military uniform. You have to be careful with the seal that you are given. And I hope that you understand that point, because, most people maybe not even think about it. But anybody that's an authority knows about that. And anybody that is a mover and shaker that sees their opportunity to be up to no good. So, yeah. He wasn't even there at the interview, y'all. That's what was so bad. But, yeah, so I'm going to write that out in a concise form. I won't add my story of the ring, Maybe I should. I don't know. But I think Governor Abbott understands what we're trying to say here. So that was on KVIA. So the KVIA KVIA interviewer, yeah, she was given some power there. Mr. Hicks is allowing um, Governor Abbott's trust because, see, Governor Abbott trusts who he appoints, and he appointed Bill Hicks to be used to establish justice, not for politics. And all of what's going on there and not reaching out to us, I think it reflects very badly on Governor Abbott, and he needs to know that. And on his administration. And so we're asking for all the people, and I know that there are thousands of them that are following us to really think about this. To really think about this, because what do we want in a DA? What do we want in a general? What do we want in a representative? What do we want in the AUSAs? What do we want in our military? What do we want? And, we have to stop wanting the very best without taking on the responsibility that it requires to get the very best, right? To get the best is hard work. And it seems like we want everything, but we don't want any of the responsibility that it takes and the work that it takes to get what we want. And so we have a mess, right? A soup sandwich. My friend calls it a soup sandwich. So we really would like Governor Abbott, we're asking him to help us find our son. And we feel it's important to let him know what's going on in El Paso and in our case. And we've reached out to him before over and over again, but now with all the new information coming out, with all the information that we know, because Richard was put in danger, he was a whistleblower for what Governor Abbott says he really cares about. He really says he cares about human trafficking. He does not want the border to be flush with weapons, right? Weapons trafficking. I mean, it's okay to have weapons, right? But we don't want illegal weapons trafficking. So weapons smuggling is a better way of saying it. So I'm going to end it by saying that I hope that he helps, because we've been waiting for a long time. And if he can be so fast with Army Sergeant Daniel Perry, and we're at 1,000 days, just about at 1,000 days of a forced disappearance. And what do I mean by that? Richard was made a target. He was made a target. And so this is absolutely a forced disappearance. What else do my notes have? And I want to end it by saying that we have a prayer vigil coming up for Richard for 1,000 days. And we just posted up the T-shirt. So we did it from Hannah posted it. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. And we did it the cheapest way we could, as far as from your pocket. Oh, yeah, here it is. Let me turn that on for you. Here it is. Yep. Okay, so it's Where's Richard? There it is. Fort Bliss's betrayed whistleblower. Okay. Um, so there it is. And we're not making any money off of it. It's $20. I think a few cents. It was 19 something. Um, so and they were suggesting like $25 or $29 or whatever, but we just brought it down and made it $20. So it's a beautiful way to get the word out. And so we really hope that you'll get a few of these and pass them around. Um, and so, with that and the letter to Governor Abbott and making it public, hopefully Bill Hicks will give us a call. And we have some other things going on because so much information has come out. I have about 100 pages here. It's like double. And I can flash it. Has X's, a lot of X's, because we're going through it to see what is true, what is false. And while I was doing that today, a verse came to me. And I don't know it word for word by heart, but I know it. And it's Job. It's Job, and it says, even we will glean from the wicked. Even we will glean from the wicked. And that describes this, the inch by inch, the morsel by morsel operation Hansel and Gretel, we've been calling it, to find out what happened to Richard. And, I'm on here just about every night. And you can definitely get in touch with me. You can let me know what is right, what is wrong, how we can move forward. I think this letter to Governor Abbott is going to be a wowzer. And I think it will get Bill Hicks's attention because this morning I woke up, lies are not sustainable, right? Lies aren't sustainable. And our agencies, our public servants, are living a lie. They get everything, and we trust them to serve us, and they're not. And they're not. And that's why I've been saying for a long time, 44 four-star generals and admirals are servicing foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending our Constitution, the land, and the people. Absolutely. Because we have Veronica Escobar, so cover up Veronica, telling us to go to the very lieutenant general that never bothered after meeting after meeting, meeting after meeting, phone call after phone call. He never even wrote us a letter because he doesn't like to put anything on paper because he will be held accountable. And so he never told us that Richard is a whistleblower. He never told us the situation that the CID of the United States Army, CID stands for Criminal Investigative Division in the United States Army, right there at Fort Bliss, what kind of danger they had put Richard in when they doxed him. And he landed flat in the middle of a contentious, terrible, terrible child sex ring divorce thing that dates back to 1990s. He never told us that. He never told us why the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. He didn't tell us that. We had to figure all this out by gleaning from the wicked. Yeah, yeah. Some of it, you know, and Team Fire Richard Halliday will tell you they just go through all the posts and all the news and all talking to people and everything like that. And yeah, so thank you so much, Team Fine Richard Halliday, for getting all of those crumbs because all of those puzzle pieces, because we have a pretty good idea now of Richard being lured to a place or a party and being retaliated against so bad that he was murdered and that his body was severed asunder and placed in different places in the desert and um, and maybe and I think also in Mexico and and there was a big cover up for it because like the whistleblower that came out of Lieutenant General's Sean Bernabe's meeting. I don't care what you do, but we cannot have another Vanessa Guillen. And I think being around the military so much, we think that that is why he was given a second star, right, to get to Fort Bliss and cover that up. You know, and he had a great partner cover up Veronica. Um, and he got his third star, didn't he? He got his third star. And he had help. He had help from cover up Donna, uh, Lieutenant General Donna Martin. And these people do not care about our service members. They do not care about our national security. They do not care about esprit de corps. They do not care about leave no soldier behind. They have lost their moral compass, and and they need to be investigated because they're doing us and our country and our beautiful Constitution a lot of harm. They're not a blessing. They're doing a lot of harm. They're up to no good. And even though they were ordered, I don't care. He had a choice to say, no, I'm not doing this order. So the worst type of enemy is the likes of General McConville, General Mealy, who I hear is retiring. And I just have to let the population know day in and day out that what's going on. Because I think there is like a shadow war going on and they're trying to pick us off one by one by one by one. And ruining our economy, definitely. So let me see if I have any questions now. Okay. 7 comments. Hi, Dolores. She has no idea what that means. No, I know. Is it Ian or Ian? Um, and he was a major. By now, probably a lieutenant colonel. He is an SJA. Small world. His loyalty is 100% to the command, even if they are wrong. Praying for you and your family. I did not know about that, so thank you. Praying that every person involved gets their deserts, and ultimately, Richard gets justice for what he stood up for. Bring Richard home, U.S. Army. They have a moral and legal obligation. Absolutely. Danielle, thank you so much. Do you think they try to play OnlyFans girl in the mix of this? Um, I don't know. I think she has been part of it big time. And I think it's like a grooming, and um and it makes me cry. It makes me so sad. And I think Danae is part of it too. I think Danae is part of it. She came like a day after, um, and she played us. She played us good. I believed her. I believed her to a degree. I didn't think that Richard was in Cancun. I wanted to hear about that. What do you mean he's in Cancun? Well, the credit card thing, okay, we could turn that off, and um but she knows all about credit cards, doesn't she? It's so sad, um how they just try to play us, and they were successful for some of the time there, but lies are not sustainable. And if you keep trying, if you keep your eyes on what's right and what's good and what's praiseworthy and your duty and your loyalty, then the lies fall away. And so that's what's happening now. But right now, there's so much information coming through that we really need to discern and get to the bottom of it. So, and that's what we're doing. But I just want to let them know. They need to know that they're being played also. Of course, she was played. She's been played since she was a girl. Um, she's been groomed. And that's why when I was talking to someone I really care about, um, and I was saying, yeah, I don't know what to say to you except for the schools and the TV and all of that. They're all grooming agencies right now. They're all psyops. They're messing with our heads, and you might think I'm silly by sending you the Heidelberg Catechism to strengthen your mind, but try it. It works. And then I sent her, of course, this book that I'm reading that is just amazing. From what year was it? What year was it? Let's see. I think it was 1893. Um, and I had this McGuffey's call the other day. Matter of fact, I need to contact this person. Um, and they contacted me and they said, I'm a professor in a college. I think that's what it was. And I want to give my students a McGuffey's test, one of the lower grade ones, to show them how dumbed down they are. And I went, okay. She goes, can you help me with that? And I'm like, okay, because McGuffey's doesn't have so many tests, y'all. See, tests are something very new in the history of education, you know? Um, you would be an apprentice, and the master, um, let's say you were learning plumbing, the master plumber, he would tell you, hey, you're screwing up. You're not doing it right. Um, he wouldn't have to give you a test. He'd turn on the water, and if there was a leak, you knew that you failed. So, it's just a different world today. Now with mathematics, with Ray's arithmetic, there was a test, but now, so I don't know. I'm going to work on that for her. I have a placement test. Maybe she can use that. But anyway, that I digressed a little bit. But I just want to say thank you to everybody because it really does make sense, doesn't it? When you know that Richard had a file before he went missing. Doesn't that make sense to everybody? And that the CID betrayed him and doxed him. And by doing that, turned him into a target. And being a target, landing in the middle of such a contentious and very serious accusations in a divorce like that, that made him uh, really in a dangerous situation. Because I don't even know how much money is involved in all of this, right? So if there's a lot of money, a lot of wealth trying to be sorted out in a divorce, that can make it even more dangerous. So you have all of this nonsense, you have these crimes, you have these very serious crimes, you have unacceptable serious crimes because child abuse, child sex abuse, child pornography is still socially unacceptable. And these are, and even worse than this. So they doxed Richard and they put him in a dangerous situation, and then he goes missing. And yeah. And then we have the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado in the 32nd ADCOM, Richard's own command, saying that they found Richard, and now we have, and he's dead. Shh. He's dead. Shh. Okay, that's in October. In October of 2020, you have this man saying it's a secret that Richard is dead. And now we have that partial remains were found on the 29th of July and the 7th of August, and they've been identified as Richard Halliday, and we don't know anything about it. And this was before we even knew Richard was missing. And where is everybody that we are supposed to trust to give us answers? For them to even let us have that kind of information and not answer us, because I posted it up too. I have a post from February of 2021, and I'm asking General McConville, I'm asking all of them. We would put it out. Rob would put it out to everybody, and we asked, is Richard dead? Plain and simple. Is Richard dead? And we did not get any kind of formal response to that. Not even to our knowledge, Richard, we have no body. Richard is not dead. They couldn't even say that. Nothing. There was nothing. Because we have reports that well, look, y'all. Not only is our question, is the FBI hiding the remains of our son? Is the DOD hiding the remains of our son? Is Cover Up Veronica hiding the remains of our son? Is the DA hiding the remains of our son? Is the Attorney General hiding the remains of our son? Is the AUSA Gregory McDonald hiding the remains of our son? Is Ian hiding the remains of our son just because they don't want to have another Vanessa Guillen? It's not that they don't want to have another Vanessa Guillen. It's just that they don't want to be held accountable like it was a thimbleful of accountability in the Vanessa Guillen, and they couldn't even take that. Because let me tell you, there should have been a whole restructuring after Vanessa Guillen and Austin Hawk and Enrique Roman Martinez, a whole new restructuring. But there was only a thimbleful of accountability launched onto the system, and they couldn't even take that. They couldn't even take that for that disaster of streak of violent crimes. They have no compassion, empathy, mercy, nothing. And what was their response after they came out of that? Not a contrite heart. Not a contrite heart. It was, let's cover up, find Richard Halliday, because we don't want to be held accountable for his body parts being strewn across the desert. And for him being doxxed from our CID protection, for being betrayed right there by the CID, who is supposed to protect him. And let's even talk about, before I let you go, the military police episode. So they send a senior leader to the military police, not to gain compassion and empathy and aspiration, and in the military police to look for Richard. Hey, let's find Richard. Even if it's for Vanessa Guillen's sake, even if it's for Austin Hawke's sake, even if it's for Enrique Roman Martinez's sake, even if it's for every service member's sake, we need to find Richard. No, what they did is they launched a smear campaign to sabotage the will of every one of those MP soldiers against finding Richard. This was an attack on every one of those MPs that were listening to that senior leader standing at the MP guard mount. They were up to no good, and they were grooming our MPs to be failures at what their job is. And at that time, they knew Richard had been doxxed and put into a dangerous place, and then missing, a forced disappearance from his barracks room. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much for your comments. I can't see too many of them, but thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And I'll tell you more. There's more. Oh, what I'll talk about tomorrow is how Mexico is going to help us. So pray for that. Pray that that comes true. It's been in the works, and I've been really praying. Please let somebody in high places, Mexico, Ireland, Poland, come and want to help us. So, because if we get some international traction on this, that will also help Governor Abbott work a little quickly, work some magic, work his governor magic, like he has been doing for this Sergeant Daniel. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will see you tomorrow.